So this is, can you see this?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. This is Gilgamesh, right? This is a famous inscription. It's carved into a lot of different places. This is the Epic of Gilgamesh on the other side, which is the actual cuneiform tablets that make up the full epic, which is a massive tome of information. It's the full story of Noah's Ark. Now he's not Noah. He goes to meet Zazudra, who's actually Noah in the Bible, and he goes on a quest to search for this guy. He goes for a quest, and what's interesting about this story, Rich, it's gonna blow you away. Enlil sends him on this mission. Okay, that's Enki's brother. These are Anunnaki people.
Mm-hmm.
And he sends him on this mission, and he wants a companion to go with him because he's going to be lonely.
Mm-hmm.
So they fashion him a companion. In other words, they make him a companion to go along with him. It's a guy, but the guy, when you analyze how he moves, how he talks, and everything, you realize that this is an artificial being. It's like a cyborg or a R2D2 type thing or whatever. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
This is crazy. Like they made him somebody to go keep him company, an artificially intelligent being to go keep him company. Wild stuff. Pretty interesting stuff. But this guy was massive. You can see this lion in his arms.
Yeah,
This
look at that.
Yeah.
Look at that lion. Wow.
Yeah. Now the guy was super massive. He would get into battles and brawls and fights along the way. Nobody could touch this guy. This guy was massive. Here goes an Egyptian god king. You can see how big he is. Look at the people.
Yeah.
He has a whole, what do you have, about 4 or 5 people there. He's holding their braids in his hand, and he's got the hammer. He's like, look, you guys are going to bow to me, do what I tell you to do. All right. That's in Egypt. That's actually at this image right here. Let me see. This one here is from Abu Simbel, Temple Abu Simbel. So if you travel to Abu Simbel, which I'll be going to again in October, I will show everyone who comes with me this depiction right here of this giant. Now, this is, you have Pharaoh Akhenaten, and he had a big skull, but this is his daughter. Okay, this is just one of his daughters. All of his daughters had skulls like this. And this was the actual shape of their skulls. Now, these skulls are not from skull binding. They're like this because they actually grew like this. They have more brain mass than a normal human being. Akhenaten had more brain mass than a normal human being. So did his wife, and so did his son, King Tut, this is crazy stuff. Now, if you look at even King Tut's grandfather, Tutmos III, and his grandmother, Queen Tai, they also have big heads as well. So this is pretty interesting stuff. Now, King Tutmos and Queen Tai, they were Black Africans. In other words, they were me and your color exactly. And she had a huge afro. Tut was black. But it's just really amazing that they had these heads. They had these incredible size heads. His sisters had these incredible size heads as well. Pretty interesting stuff. This is that verse that I told you from the Bible. And there we saw the giants, the sons of Anak, who come of the giants. And we were in our own sight as grasshoppers, and so we were in their sight. You know what I'm saying? They're saying, man, we were like nothing to these people. We were tiny. This is my own collection right here. You're looking at my credenza, and to prove it, I have a picture of me and my son inside the credenza so I don't get the crazy people. You know what I'm saying? You got to outsmart these clowns sometimes. So you see a picture of me inside my credenza with my son right there. But on the left, you see a giant Paraka skull, and on the right, you see a human skull. This is not from skull binding, okay? It says here, this is my collection at home. You can clearly see that the Paraka skull has almost 1/3 more brain volume and a much larger jawbone than the modern human. These were giants. You could not get more brain volume from skull binding, as some would believe. If you skull bind, which did happen in the past, you actually shrink your brain for capacity, or the skull. So your brain actually shrinks into the size of the skull. It doesn't expand. Binding makes it smaller, not wider. Now, these people who are binding were trying to mimic the gods, people who they thought were gods, because they were like gods with these big heads and all this knowledge. But binding just was a symbolism. The people who had the skull like you see right here, these are some giants with super, super smarts and high technology. So it's pretty incredible. Now, approximately 3,000 years old, this skull, and the initial DNA analysis of them has revealed that they may have not come from humans, but from a completely new species, according to Paracas Museum assistant director and researcher Brian Forster, who I'm going to see him in Peru in April on a tour that I'm doing down there. Good friend of mine. It's apparent. He said, "Here's the apparent quote from the geneticist who did the testing," and then it goes on in my report there, but. It's actually on my Anunnaki history group. But what he was saying was they spent a couple $100,000 on this DNA testing from multiple sources, and the evidence came back non-human. Okay, so pretty interesting stuff. Now we have thousands of these skulls now, thousands. Okay, not a few, not 100, not a couple of anomalies, thousands of these giant skulls, and they're in a
Wow.
museum. And I'll be going live from the museum in April. I'm sorry, in June, not April, June, from Peru. Okay, with
Mm.
Brian Forster. Here goes the heights and some of the feats that have been stated by witnesses over thousands of years. Present day modern human, which reaches an average height of about 6 feet tall. Then you have B, 15-foot human skeleton found in the southeast Turkey in the late 1950s in the Euphrates Valley during road construction.
Mm.
Many tombs containing giants were uncovered there. That's close to the Middle East.
Mm.
Then you have C, Maximus Thrax, Caesar of Rome, 235 to 238 AD. Okay, look at that. Look how big he was. D is Goliath, about 9 feet. Okay, yes, in Samuel 7:14, late 11th century. Then you have E, King Og, spoken of in Deuteronomy 3:11, whose iron bedstead was approximately 14 feet by 16 feet wide. King Og was about 12 feet tall. Then you have the FA, you have number, what's this? Who's this? 19 feet 6 inches. A human skeleton found in 1577 AD under an overturned oak tree in the canton of Lucerne. And you have G. Oh, you can't probably see the letters on your screen. I don't know if you can see them at the bottom there. But 23-foot tall skeleton found in 1456 AD beside a river in Valence, France. You have this other one here, H, which is 25 or so feet, 6 inches, I believe. Skeleton found in 1613 AD near the castle of Chatemont in France. And this was claimed to be nearly a complete find. In other words, they had all the parts of that body in H. And I, almost beyond comprehension or believability, was the find of two separate 36-foot human remains uncovered by the Carthaginians somewhere between 200 to 600 BC. And so these are just some accounts of giants that have been found, around the world and their sizes. So we know that these people got super massive at one point, or were super massive and then shrunk. Really, is what it seems like.
Mm.
There's one more here in Egypt. This is one of the Egyptian temples. You can see this king and this pharaoh. You can see the human beings coming to worship and serve. You can see how the size they are compared to the size of this guy. This guy is massive.
Huge, yeah.
Yeah. If
Mm.
he stands up, I mean, these people are below his kneecap.
Mm.
This is again Gilgamesh. So you can see the average height of a human versus the average height of this guy. And in the upper right corner, you see an Anunnaki Sumerian cylinder scroll depicting the size of one of these Anunnaki people. He's actually teaching these human beings anti-gravity techniques with this apparatus. That disc you see there, that round disc with those lines on it,
Mm-hmm.
that's not a disc with lines on it. That's a frequency. It's a cymatic frequency, a particular frequency that you can get when you put sand on a plate and put a speaker beneath it. Once you obtain that right frequency, you can make that exact pattern. You can see the table, the human being that has his hand on the leg of the table. He's lifting it from that side with one arm, a stone table. And this is the same exact apparatus at the Coral Castle in Miami, Florida, in Coral Gables. It's the same exact setup with this type of a tripod the guy has. He had a magnetic thing at the top, and he had this frequency coming out of it that would help him levitate gigantic coral blocks. The guy was only 4'11". He weighed 110 pounds or something. His name was Edward Leedskalnin, and he claimed to have unlocked the mystery of building pyramids just like the ancient Egyptians. And he built this megalithic. This is in modern times. He built this megalithic structure in Miami called the Coral Castle, a place that people can go without having to use a passport and go explore a megalithic site. So that's what I have for you today. Let me stop sharing my screen.
By Compendium of the Emerald Tablets by Billy Carson.